Hi, my loves. Thanks for joining me here on another episode of Chai Speaks Podcast. All right, ladies. So, if you are interested in the topic of self-worth, stay tuned, stay connected. We're going to dive deeper in this beautiful topic of self-esteem and self-worth and how do we get there? How do we find this, okay? So, if you're interested, go ahead and grab your beverage of choice and meet me right back here. All right, so let's dive deeper. So basically, I've written down some of the things that I really want to dive deeper on. So the main topic is how do we find self-worth, okay? Especially, the ladies, our ladies here on this planet, we tend to struggle deeply on how to know our own self-worth. And part of the reason why is because, and I don't say this lightly, it's because we allow other people to kind of put value on us. What I mean by that is, hear me out. Let's take me as an example because I cannot say we as a whole because not everyone has the same predicament, right? Or has gone through the same journey. So that wouldn't be fair if I say we. And I always, like I said, I'm a very, very honest speaker. And I will always put myself on the spot if I catch myself saying something that isn't entirely true. So, for me personally, how I came to find my own self-worth through a lot of different ordeals and situations that had placed me into creating a mental realm of low self-esteem, low self-worth, not kind of like a feeling of loss, feeling like you don't know where you're going, uh, things like that. So, a little bit about my background, okay? So, I'm obviously of an Asian descent. I'm Cambodian. And and this has nothing to do with like the culture and it's, well, I can't really say it has nothing to do. Basically, certain cultures will kind of, I hate to use the word dictate, but it will kind of dictate how each gender will live life in a sense. For example, in my culture, we have this hierarchy, right? And a lot of the times in traditional Cambodian culture, um, we tend to have this thing where the wife will kind of be a little more submissive than the husband. I know that nowadays everything's more modernized and a little bit more, you know, a little more fair, right? But because of now, keep in mind that I am in my 40s now. So while I was growing up, I've always been kind of raised to see myself as secondary to other people because I was raised to really just keep quiet, not say anything, don't speak up. That is also attributed to having a very abusive biological mother, right? She has long passed on since I was 8 years old, but during her life, living and raising us, I have six siblings within my personal family, my siblings, including myself. And we were raised with a lot of physical abuse because she had a lot of mental issues. My father wasn't the greatest, and this is not an episode to kind of put my family down in that way, but I am going to be honest and really share this aspect of my life, of my history, so that you can kind of fully understand that a lot of the times when it comes to self-esteem and self-worth, it 98% it stems from your childhood. And this is because the subconscious mind has already written a narrative or a story based off of your childhood experiences. And then it kind of locks itself away, and that book has been like, sitting in the back shelf for a long time. And as you grow up or at least bloom, you know, as the wonderful onion that you are, you know, peeling your layers off, you in a sense take out that book and then kind of play out all of those different scenarios throughout the people that you meet in your life. If you know, you know. If you know what I'm talking about, seriously, I'm telling you, my heart. Because for me, I feel like whew. Now, this is not just about my personal culture. I'm pretty sure in every culture there's some kind of childhood trauma that is correlated to the way the upbringing is. But for me, my mom, you know, she was taught that divorce wasn't an option. Physical abuse is pretty much okay to do, you know. I mean, it's not like she wanted to physically abuse us. It's just that she was not herself. From what I heard, because my father had a second family while she was, you know, having babies with him, it was kind of like, you know, and it wasn't consensual. Like my mother didn't consent to having my father or, you know, she didn't agree on him having another family before they got married. So obviously, if you know, this has nothing to do with polygamy or being against polygamy, because everyone is to each his own, right? To each his and her own. But my mother did not consent to it, but she was so in love with my father that she didn't want to separate. And then that created this whole like mental instability. And obviously it also probably has a lot to do with postpartum depression that never got resolved. And so therefore, you know, three, four, five, 6 kids later, my mom's kind of like, you know what I mean? So then that led to her finding a different outlet and abusing us both physically and mentally, not sexually, but like we were always beaten. And my dad was kind of always away. And so therefore we were also taught, like, even though my mother passed at when I was 8 years old, I am like literally in my 40s now, we were kind of instilled into to kind of we were raised to see that the women in my culture are to respect our spouse no matter what they do. You're supposed to stand by them, and you're not really supposed to have your own opinion. And it was hard for me growing up, even after she passed on. It was hard for me to find out who I am. So because of this whole upbringing, and I'm not blaming the upbringing, because you know, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't heal something what you can't see, right? So I was not aware of what was going on. I didn't even know that my dad had a second family. I was always blaming my mom, and you know, I was making horrible wishes upon her. And then when the day came, and you know, I later on I found out that my siblings felt the same way, and it was horrible, and we had to really, like, you know, had therapy and really talk things through as siblings and things like that. And we healed a lot of aspects of our childhood trauma. But from time to time, in hindsight, looking back, I realized that there were things that I myself didn't realize that I needed to heal. So I was always looking for the knight in shining armor kind of deal when it comes to love relationships. So there it led me to, like, okay, so let's backtrack. So after my mom died, I became a very rebellious teenager. And my older sibling, well, my dad was still kind of back and forth, you know, we still communicated, but he wasn't really truly around. And then my brother and my older, basically all my older siblings, I'm the fourth child, try to raise us best they can, but it was, you know, it was kind of hard. But it made me realize that I was just trying to find myself, because I wasn't allowed to know who I was. Because let's backtrack to how my mom raised us. If I were to say something like, oh, we have 3 boys and 3 girls in the room right now, my mom would literally hit my head and say, what are you trying to insinuate? You know, things like that. Like, I cannot speak. We weren't allowed to speak up. And we weren't perfect children, but we weren't horrible either. We're just kids, you know what I mean? But I didn't realize that she was crying out for help in her own way, and she didn't have any like grown-ups to really express herself with. So her anger became rage, and that rage later on I think might actually be attributed to hormonal changes because when she had, I remember when I was 8 years old, she was already in her 40s, mid 40s, so she may have already started, perimenopause, and her hormones were changing, and there was so much rage, and she didn't know how to handle that rage, you know? And so then that led her to raise us in a way that kind of limit our full potential. And I'm not blaming her for that, because we all go through problems, and we're all just trying to do our best. There are some really great things that my mom had within her character traits, and I can list them on another episode. But today we're really going to dive deeper in how it is that came to be, why my self-worth was just so diminished. And it started from my mother, and then it was my father, and then the way that I didn't really know who I was. And then that led me into finding relationships and starting relationships in an early stage of life. And then after that, I've always kind of had relationships with people who wanted to kind of take control over my mind and over me as a whole. Like I can't go anywhere, I can't go to the stores, can't without them, or it was just a really controlling relationship in their own way. And that led me to really having this whole identity crisis as I turned in, as I finish up every single decade, right? So for me, I felt like I didn't really know myself until, I have to say, until after I got my until I separated from my husband. So now, mind you, he did his best, and I don't blame him for anything, because we all have to take accountability for who and what we choose, right? So that led me into diving deeper on how did it come to be. So now, as I dove deeper into finding why was it that my self-esteem, my self-worth is so low, I realized that it stemmed from childhood. So that's one thing that I definitely recommend for you to do, is write things down. If you can recall anything at all about your childhood that may have contributed or attributed this whole, diminishing of your self-esteem, or the start of it, or the onset of it, right? So by writing things down, you will see that there may be some hidden memories that needs to be retrieved. And, we'll talk about more about going into therapy or doing hypnosis and things like that to kind of retrieve those memories, if it is safe to do so. Obviously, I am not a doctor or a psychologist. I don't have any doctorate degree or anything like that, but this is just me speaking from my own personal experience. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, okay, you totally have to listen to Chai. You don't. This is not about that. But I am here as your girlfriend, as your friend, as a fellow divine feminine. If you're struggling with self-worth, I totally get it. And I'm not 100% confident yet, but I'm pretty close up there. Like, I know, at least I know who I am and what I'm all about, right? So, and if you want to get to that point, I definitely recommend for you to stay and continue to listen to this podcast, okay? So we did talk about knowing who you are and understanding that you are ever growing and you are ever expanding. So for me, I thought growing up, I didn't understand, like, okay, so I don't know if you had the same kind of idea in your mind that you had to stick to one person only, no matter whether you love them or fell out of love with them. You are to just be loyal to this person forever and ever and ever, and that's it. And that if you pick this person, that's all you got, and you can't change your mind. If you started listening to the beginning of my podcast, I talked about how my mom kind of stuck by my dad, even though he had a second family. Because of that, all of the scenario played out in that way. I thought that I had to do the same. I thought that I had to stay with this person forever and ever, even though this person, I was 16 and I ended up getting engaged because my father had said I was just such a rebellious child that if I wanted to make up for it, just go ahead and do the best thing for me is just to get married and just have a family, and maybe settling down will help me become a better person. Now, in my culture, I have to say that in my culture, it is normal to be engaged at such a young age. So this is not to, put down the way that it is when it comes to my culture. But I think that in hindsight, I wish I had chosen differently. But I wanted to become a filial child, so I had agreed. And I take onus of that. I totally take accountability for my decisions. But then when I think about it, I didn't learn later on that my mind wasn't fully developed until 24, because according to science, that's basically how the human brain is. You shouldn't make big decisions before that unless you're like totally mature or whatever. But scientifically, you're not really fully grown until you're 24 or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I learned. So in hindsight, I was thinking, wow, I was only 16, so I can't really totally blame myself, but at the same time, I take onus of what I chose, right? I forgave my father for kind of pushing me into that direction. So the guy that I ended up being with at that time he was in a gang, and I didn't know that. So, but at the same time, I had a crush on him for so long when I was a kid, and it was like a family friend, So when I stayed with him, he was very controlling. He didn't let me go out. He didn't let me do anything. And he would hit me every single day. He would do things to me that I don't think a human being should feel, right? Especially not without consent. So one day I refused to do something he wanted me to do. So then he punched me in my temple and I blacked out. But when I woke up, I actually woke up in a dark space, and a voice had said to me, it's not time yet. You have to go back. And I'm like, wait, did I die? And the voice said, not completely, but your soul is out of your body and you need to go back. And I felt so much peace in this void that I was in. And the voice was like a very masculine voice, and it was a very deep, soft voice at the same time. And I didn't want to go. But when the voice said that I had a lot to do, and I know this is not a video to talk about my near-death experience, but it's all tied in together. So I want to kind of touch base on this too. But when I said, no, I don't want to go back, I don't want to go back, because I've had a horrible life. I don't want to go back. But then all of a sudden I felt like a rush, like a suction, like a vacuum sucking my soul back into the body, and I woke back up. And there's more stuff. I'll probably make an episode on that to kind of elaborate on what had happened during that time. But when I came to, I was kind of a different person. Like, I felt like I had more, I don't know, powers or something, or like at least a stronger confidence in knowing that I deserved better. So then I started to kind of slowly put my stuff away and save my money so that I can just run away from that person. And that was a success later on, jumping ahead, because, we're not going to dive deeper into that relationship. But that was also part of the self-worth thing too. And the reason why I mentioned that relationship is because moving on and moving on to the next relationship, right? My husband, or my ex-husband, I met him at 17, and when I was with him, I thought just because he's not physically hitting me or doing something that was like, just abusing me in that way, that was a way better relationship, and that I had it made, right? I ended up staying with him for 17 years before something had happened and we had to go separate ways. But this is not to badger him, and I still care for him as a person, and he's still a family member to me. So, in respect, and to out of respect for him, I'm not going to really dive deeper on what happened, but he was also a young person at that time. I was 17, he was 20. So basically what had happened was, it made me realize in hindsight, after I had broken up with him, it made me realize that I accepted that relationship and I stayed in that relationship due to my childhood trauma, and also the trauma from the previous relationship, where I thought, okay, just because this person's not hitting me, he's not mentally abusing me every single day, it was okay to stay. And it really wasn't, because I wasn't happy. Not all the time. I'm not saying I wasn't happy completely, but there were things that I wanted to do. And there was kind of like, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, like where the men kind of want the women or their spouse to be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home person or a caretaker, but then it's a whole controversial topic, so I don't even want to dive deeper on that part yet. But it made me think that just because my previous relationship before my marriage was 10 times worse, that it was okay to stay in the marriage that I was in. And ladies, I am telling you, oh my gosh, coming from a person who has had this experience, and as long as you are safe, just know and understand that you are worth more than that. You are so worth it. And it's okay to have dreams and goals, especially in a relationship. If you feel like you know what type of relationship you want, that will also kind of lead you into more self-understanding and self-worth. So the next thing for me, what I did for myself was I dove deeper into knowing what it is that I wanted. And that's how it led me to seeing what I'm really worth. Does that make sense? Like, there's no value that can be labeled upon a person, because we're all invaluable. We are all extremely just priceless, right? So when I say self-worth, it doesn't mean to say, oh, you're worthy of something just because you accomplished this or that. That will also segue to the next thing that I want to talk about. I thought that just because because I was always kind of like, let's see, not really an overachiever, because I don't really think I achieved much, but I always thought that if I got good grades in school, that I'm worth something, right? And if I got two versus the one internship, that says something about me, right? But that actually led to my own demise, because I didn't understand the concept of quality versus quantity. Okay? I didn't understand the whole thing about just quality, the essence of quality. And that essence really applies to everything in life. Human beings, relationships, things, material things, career, things like that, right? And so therefore it led me to having a false understanding of myself, because I thought, oh, okay, if I do this, or if I have this, or if I look good in this way, then I am worthy of, all of the things that I have now. Little did I know So mind you, keep in mind that throughout my whole 40 some odd years of being on this planet, I've had financials ups and downs. I've had very little money to a lot of money to very little money to a lot of money to very little money, and working myself back up. So to me, I understood now that material things and money is very fleeting. You can have lots of money and still not know yourself and lose it all. So, and that also ties into health, right? Mental health, physical health. My ex have always kind of tried to push me into not letting myself go mentally and not letting myself go physically. But because, hold on, let me just fix my legs because it's like falling asleep. So basically, it's almost like I allowed myself to be molded by him. And he also kind of regretted molding me in a way, because what he thought was best for me wasn't best for me, because I was always kind of fiery, strong-willed, but I became submissive for some reason, and I thought that that was the way to go. And then I lost myself, and when I lost myself, I literally let myself go physically. I gained so much weight. I didn't want to exercise anymore. I didn't know what to do with my career. I ended up staying home and just having no clue what the heck I was doing. That's not saying that I didn't work throughout the years, but I did. I did. Even while I was at work, I was just lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a path, like a set path that I really truly know what I wanted. And I'm pretty sure a lot of ladies will kind of, relate to that. Especially for me, I thought that once I have my baby, I will know like why my purpose is all about, like what I'm here to do. So basically, I just let myself go, right? And I take onus of that too. Like I take onus of what had happened, what I allowed to happen. Because I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was with my ex-husband, I remember in the beginning of the relationship, I was so filled with poise and charisma and love and self-confidence. And then I just allowed myself to be someone who was just not sure of herself. And that kind of created this decline of attraction on my husband's side, because he was always kind of like, it was weird. It was like a catch-22 for him. Like he wanted someone who's submissive but yet strong at the same time, and I didn't know how to be that for him. So as the years go by, 17 years later, he fell out of love, and we ended up breaking up. And that was something that really like broke me. It really broke me, because I said to myself that I only want to be married to one person, and I obviously have my child, my daughter. So that made me break down. I broke down very hard. I didn't know what to do. But after the breakup, I went to cosmetology school because I knew that I needed to do something that, number one, will bring in money quickly after I get out of school, and to also really just find myself, But one of the greatest things that I've ever chosen for myself, and I wanted to lead by example for my daughter. And so all of these things that happened throughout the years, and all of these things that I've talked about throughout the video, has led me to finding my self-worth. But the one thing that I realized that really helped me tremendously is taking the time to really dive deeper and introspect and retrospect. So if you want to take notes, you might want to write down that in order to know your self-worth and to know yourself, is to replay. As hard as it may seem, you have to see how you got there. How did you get to the point of losing yourself? And trying to dive deeper and understanding why you made those choices. Whether they're good choices or poor choices, they were choices that you've made. And when you understand that you've made those choices, and yes, circumstances had led you to those choices, and sometimes it may feel like you're stuck between a hard place and a rock. So then you had no choice but to go under or to go above, right? Depending on what you chose at that time. But taking onus of your decisions and taking onus of the things that you've made will truly allow you to forgive yourself. And I say this with love. You have to know that you made the decisions you made according to the situations you were in, and it's okay. You made those choices and it's okay. They've long gone and passed. You are now who you are. You don't have to blame yourself and feel ashamed for the things that you've done, right? So, because once you learn to forgive yourself, you will know who you are and truly like you're worthy of much more. And so that's one or two things that I realized. And then also my list here, it says one exercise that I definitely recommend for you to do is to list all of the good things about yourself. Because if you want, and I don't want you to list any of the bad things that you have about yourself. This exercise is for you to really only focus on the good that you are. And this is a way of hacking your mental space and your subconscious into really, really emphasizing, on a big screen TV for yourself, for your subconscious to really, truly see that you have all of these good things about you, even if they're really small. Like, say, for example, start with your physical attribute, right? Look in the mirror and list out, even if it's one thing that you love about yourself, and I'm pretty sure there's something that you do love about yourself, list it. Then dive deeper into writing the stuff that you love about your personality, right? What do you love about your personality? I'm pretty sure you're not a hated person, right? If you don't know what those things are, you can go around and ask people, like, hey, what do you like about me? Write it down. And I know this is not an exercise to kind of train you to thinking that other people's opinions are the right thing, because they might not. That's why the way that you word the question is very, very crucial, because you're just only asking them what they like about you, not what they think you should be like. And that's very important. Don't get those two mixed up, because you don't want to dive deeper into something that can create a worm hole, But I would have to say, if you find people that really likes you, right? Or ask them, hey, what are some of the things that you like about me? And if they ask you, oh, well, why are you asking? I just want to know. And I could do the same for you, because obviously people like to hear good things about them, and vice versa. Obviously you're wanting to learn more about yourself and what are the good things. And if you don't know those things, you can ask your loved ones, and they will tell you. Honestly, they will tell you, and you'll be like, wow, I do see these things about myself. And if you don't see these things about yourself, you can still kind of, play out certain scenarios that happened in the past and see, hey, maybe this thing is true. I'm pretty sure you'll find something. So that's another exercise that you can do, is to ask the people that loves you, what are some of the great attribute and characteristic traits that you have that they enjoy. Okay, wording is very crucial, so make sure that you use those good words. And then another thing I noticed, in order for me to feel like I'm worthy of just good things, I have to say, and I'm a very physical person, so I have to be moving around a lot. I may be slow in my pace, but for me, when all of my meridians and my chakra is fully aligned and open, I feel good about myself. And that takes me to health and exercise. One key factor that really has helped me in finding my self-worth and feeling like I'm worthy of everything great is to know that I want to stay healthy for the good things that are coming. And if you're not healthy or you're not at your optimum pace of health at this moment, I recommend for you to start. And you can check out my other videos in on the channel about intermittent fasting and healthier diets and things like that, right? You don't have to be going through perimenopause to be doing any of these things. You could be in your 20s or teen years and still be able to utilize the things that you can learn from this channel. So I do recommend you watch the videos. And then another great thing is sleep. So we talked about exercise and eating better, but you will be surprised at how much clarity you gain in mental space when it comes to getting good sleep. So make sure you sleep, and you'll find that you have a better, clear mind, and you can think clearly. So that leads you to seeing more greater things about yourself. Okay. And the last thing, last but not least, and totally probably not last, but the only thing that the video is getting kind of long, but I want to end on the note of find out what your love language is, right? And making sure that, because I know that there's a doctor, I forgot what the doctor's name is, but if you type in on one of the search engines and you type in what are the love languages for people, you'll probably see 5 love languages, right? And I think it's I forgot what the name of the doctor, but it's physical touch, gift giving, act of service, quality of time, and what was the other one? I forgot what was the last one, but if you can remember what that last one is or find out, you can go ahead and comment that in the comment section. But just find out what those love languages are, and you can have more than one love language, and it's okay, and that's normal. But there are hierarchies in terms of what you want most and more of. So find out what those love languages are, and then making sure that you express that to your loved ones or lover, right? And that's how you know that you have become a lot more self-loving, because you are asking for, you're basically training and leading by example so that other people can follow suit in how to love you. And that's how you gain more self-worth, because you know what you're worth, you know what you want. And knowing what you want will totally break the barriers for you to be able to see, okay, these are my qualities, that this is what I have to offer. Take it or leave it. If you leave, that's on you. If you stay, then we will enjoy each other. But I want you to, ladies, I'm really not kidding. Like, please take the time to find out who you truly are. Even if it takes decades for you to realize who you truly are. Any single progress is progress you didn't make yesterday. Okay? So you're always going to be expanding, progressive, loving, and you are always going to be worthy. And I guarantee you, the second you start the self-worth journey, you're going to find that you are actually realizing you are worth way more than you initially thought. And that in itself is already very, very great. So with that said, if you like this podcast, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. I do a lot of different types of topics, and I'll be also posting a lot of different polls and questions and things like that. So, we want to be proactive on this channel, and our goal here on this channel is to make sure that we're maximizing every single thing that we can to make sure that we're all thriving. Okay, especially as women. I think that women, we tend to be very, very extremely hard on ourselves. So that's part of the reason why I have made this channel. So just make sure that you are very gentle with yourself. And with that said, I'll see you in my next episode.